Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're searching for an answer. Episode 25. The Bobby Kudo Show. Do you know what it means? I'm sure you do. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bobby Kudo Show. Little White Snake for you. What a great tune. Hello everyone. Welcome. Episode 25. I hope you enjoyed that, because I sure did. You know, I don't typically let it play out that long, but it just sounds so good you don't want it to stop, right? Am I right? I know I'm right, and I know you appreciate it, and I know you enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Bobby Kudo Show, and today I would like to say welcome to 1988. And if you didn't know, you will now. That was Whitesnake's 7th studio album, self-titled Whitesnake. They were a British rock band. They released that, believe it or not, in 1987. But originally, when it got released, it didn't get released in the States until 1988. And it had that song, Here I Go Again, which hit number 1, and then Is This Love was the other one that everybody was listening to. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. They beat the Billboard 210 consecutive weeks. Wow, holy mackerel. What a great band of the 80s. I'll tell you what, they had amazing hair, right? I mean, who had better hair than them? Maybe like Motley Crue, or right? Or Poison. I mean, my goodness. I mean, we could talk about Guns N' Roses, and we will later in the show, because you can't talk about the 80s without talking about Axl Rose, Slash, and the amazing Guns N' Roses. Everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for the delay on the podcast, but, you know, life kind of gets you off guard once in a while, and had some family things going on over the weekend that kind of held things up a little bit, and I didn't have, I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't have the frame of mind that I thought necessary to deliver a good podcast. I was really concerned with just life in general, some things that I just had to take care of with the ones that I love, and I'm glad to report that everything has worked out absolutely wonderfully. Everyone is well. Everyone is doing fantastic. And I am here delivering episode 25, guys. Can you believe it? Here we are. What a crazy week. I mean, can we talk about this week for a second? Let's hit the ground running, right? I mean, let's talk about it. But I will, couple of things. You know, first of all, I got a packed show today. We got a lot of stuff I want to go over. I really worked on this really hard. Had some time today. I'll tell you guys, like I mentioned, I was occupied over the weekend, and today was another full day with some personal things. So I had some time. I got a lot of stuff down that I would love to share with you guys. So I hope that you guys are strapped in, and you're ready for a journey, another journey along with me and this great message. So 1988, I mentioned that was the year that we were talking about and celebrating this episode. And you know, if you didn't know, that was about 31 years ago. I was 13 years old, so I was just becoming a man, hitting puberty. 13 years old. I don't even remember what it was like to be 13, other than me. I mentioned in earlier podcasts my first job. I got my first job when I was 13. Other than that, I don't remember much. But I know it was a good time. I know it leading up to that, the 80s were busy, right? Very busy in the 80s. There was a lot going on, a lot of change coming out of the 70s. And of course, when you got into the second half of the 80s, it almost seemed like people figured out that there were other drugs other than cocaine, right? I mean, early 80s cocaine, and then the second half of the 80s, there was a little bit of everything, and people were experimenting. And it made for some very interesting inventions. You got to believe that, the Apples and the Microsofts of the world, I mean, in all reality, could that be someone of conscious mind or someone that's altered in a space above reality, right? That's what you'd have to think. So mentioned a busy week and some other things going on, like I said, Super Bowl. If anybody got to catch the Super Bowl this Sunday, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs over the San Francisco 49ers, 31-20. I won't lie to you guys. I was hoping for Jimmy G. I was kind of hoping Jimmy G was going to pull one out, the New England Patriots alumni. But unfortunately, that didn't work out for him. He played good. It just seemed like at the end, he just kind of, I don't know, it looked like he got spooked out or something and just kind of flunked out. But you know what? I get it. You have to imagine biggest stage in the world. I mean, at least in the United States anyway. I mean, you start talking European soccer ball, and you got a fan base there of just epic, unimaginable proportions. In the United States, for us, American football, for us, it's a big deal. And even Canada gets involved with their own football league, and they do really well. But the NFL in itself is just an amazing product that is very fortunate. I happened to catch an article. They were talking about the, and I think it's a great thing. Anything that stimulates the economy. In this case, Miami. They held a Super Bowl in Miami, and they were estimating to generate over $420 million in revenue from, visitors and tourism, fans. I mean, you got to think. I mean, who doesn't want to go to a Super Bowl? I mean, I'd love to go to a Super Bowl, but I don't know. I maybe someday, maybe someday the podcast will be so successful that someone will want to give me tickets. I'll be, if anybody wants to send them over, you can just email them to me. All right. I'll really appreciate it. Some happy news over in Britain, right? The British people, they finally got Brexit. That's all set, finally said and done. They said they were going to do it. I'll be honest with you, I was kind of on the fence about it. I wasn't sure if they were actually going to be able to pull it through, and they did. And it's very happy moment for those people, claiming their independence. And we're real curious to see how that all turns out. I mean, when you're talking about a whole new economic system, or I don't know, maybe just fabricating your own economic system. I'm not even sure where you would even start with that. The way that you kind of, I mean, you would have to have a gross national worth, I would imagine, and then that would be based on what the value of your currency is, and then that's how you. I mean, who has the? I mean, that's amazing, right? Like, there's a bunch of people sitting around figuring that stuff out, because I would have to imagine that it's just not the layman's figuring that stuff out. Other good news. You want to hear some other good news? It is, if anybody didn't know, it's February and it's Black History Month. So go hug a black friend or a black family member or someone you care about, and appreciate and recognize a lot of the sacrifices that were made to get us where we're at today. You can never, again, I continue to repeat myself when I say it. We're doomed if we choose to forget our history. I know that we continue to remove and take down these monuments, wherever they may be, in whatever state. It doesn't make a difference. The irony in all of it is that it's happening everywhere. So people, that may feel oppressed for some reason, are calling for these statues to be torn down. And again, regardless of how you feel about a monument or a statue, it can mean many, many different things to many, many different people. When you think of the Lincoln Monument in Washington, that's Abraham Lincoln. He was, I'm surprised everyone, if you didn't know, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Abraham Lincoln, not only fought for the slaves, but he fought for the Union. He fought for our country. He fought for the nation. So it's interpreted in many different ways, but ultimately, it's the greater good of man and woman. And I think that we need to appreciate everyone. It's not just Abraham Lincoln to the world, the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's. These are people that, the Muhammad Ali's, like these are people that have paved the way. Even if you want to get a little corny with it, let's talk about Will Smith, people that are so influential, and even in, the Hollywood scene, regardless of anything else, great role models out there that we can be proud of. So I think that, as a people that we continue to evolve, and we learn I would hope and think that at some point we can learn to celebrate these moments, and it doesn't turn into this mediocrity of just I don't know, the negative. Again, I mean, you can find the negative in anything, guys. You can dig and you can find negative everywhere. But to get to a point of where you're at today. You know what? Perfect example for me. A lot of negative in my life, and I'm sure a lot of negative in yours as well. But it doesn't define who you are, other than the fact that you can appreciate what it is and know what struggle is. I think that builds character in many ways, shape, and forms. Someone who knows what the struggle is, someone who knows what it's like to, feel pain. It really does. I believe it really does enlighten a person. Do I think that makes the person? The answer to that is no. Maybe let me get a little personal with you guys here real quick. A lot of abuse, alcoholism, in my youth, in my childhood, and I witnessed and experienced a lot of things that probably most don't even realize, or would have, maybe if you saw it in the news today, it'd probably be because the police were arresting people, and it was that kind of thing. But all in all, we made it, and here we are. The strength of a woman, determined. My mom, and the idea that she was never going to be held down, and that was just, again, and I only bring that up because we all have struggled, regardless of the color of our skin, and what that struggle may be to you and to me, although very, very different, but the difference is, guys, I experienced that struggle, and not that I hold it like a badge or brag about it, but honestly, a lot of the people out there holding signs for Black History Month probably have never struggled in their lives or know what struggle really is. I can say, wholeheartedly and truthfully that I have. So if I had a sign, I could hold the sign and say that I had the T-shirt. So I just, I caution everybody. It's a great. I think it's a great idea to celebrate these months. Every month it's a hamburger month, and then there's autism month, and then every month they got something. And when we talk about Black History Month, it's really not a platform for people to get angry and to talk about a bunch of negative things. It really is to look back and say, hey, look at the success that we have built. Not just black, but white, Asian, Persian, whatever your descent. We built this, and we continue to build it, and we build it together. So I invite you all to look at that and appreciate it for what it really is. And again, and what it is the sacrifices and struggle of those that came before us to pave the way so that we didn't have to struggle the way that they did. So don't forget that Black History Month, very important for everyone. Moving on, guys, moving on. You want to hear some great news? All right, here's some great news. How about the fact that we know, right? Because, that European model that they have there in Europe that measures the weather, like that's all bullshit. Don't listen to that. What we do have is we got a groundhog, right? Mr. Pensacani Phil. And he lives over at Gobbler's Knob in Pensacani, Pennsylvania. And he makes an annual prediction. Unless you live under a rock, guys, you know this. Every year he comes out and If he sees his shadow, it's a longer winter. If he doesn't see his shadow, it's a longer spring. So in this case, lucky for us, he did not see his shadow, and that means it's going to be an early spring. So I am looking forward to that. Anybody who lives in New England, actually in reality, we would, and I know that we invite any news that's related to less cold weather. I think I think we will all agree is a great thing. So, apparently, guys, if you haven't been down there, I did spend a little bit of time in Pennsylvania. Again, my work history. I used to do bridge demolition. I used to work with a good friend, Derek Santos. I hope he listens. I doubt he listens, but if he does, shout out, Derek. And when I turned 18 years old, I was old enough to work in the industry. I tell you, and I say it today, and I still say it to this day. Working bridge demolition, that's where I really learned how to work. It was one of those jobs that we traveled up and down the East Coast, and we'd go all the way from Pennsylvania to northern New Hampshire, southern Maine, and we would take down bridges. That's what we did. It was JB Fay Company, and I was a laborer. Derek was a laborer. Joe was our operator. Steve was our general, and we typically get a guy out of the hall to run a machine for us, and we'd we'd start in the middle, and we would take out a bridge. In some cases, we ended up in some small towns, and so like celebrities, people coming out and taking pictures of us working. But reality, we're taking bridges down that were, let's say, 200 years old, 300 years old. I mean, as old as the Constitution, for goodness sake. These are just bridges that have been here since the beginning of time. And it was really cool because you got to see the methods and the materials that they would use back then to build these structures. It was nothing like today. We have the technology and the machinery to do whatever. I mean, for goodness sake, you can make a pretzel out of concrete if you wanted to. Back then, a lot of this stuff was mixed by hand. They would mix it and carry it, and they were using different types of fibers, horsehair, whatever it took to strengthen the concrete. They didn't have the technology that we do today. But anyway, we would take these bridges down, and I ended up, long story short, I ended up in Pennsylvania. I ended up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and we were down there. I think I might have mentioned it on a previous podcast, but we ended up at the Harley Davidson factory, and that was really cool. If you guys ever have a chance and you're in Pennsylvania, anybody who lives in Pennsylvania, I'm sure you've gone, but just to see, to go down there and actually see the way that they build the Harleys is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, really just great. I mean, although you do notice a lot of the parts and a lot of the devices are built out of the country. I mean, I know a lot of the engines, the Evolution engines, are built in Taiwan, but nonetheless, they had like the assembly line. All these people were working. One of the coolest parts about the whole thing was when we were driving there. It was semi after like Harley Davidson semis, and these things are loaded with motorcycles, and what's more American than Harley Davidson, right? I mean, it was just a cool experience, and we get to see Elvis Presley. They take you through the whole tour. There's a museum. It was a really, really cool experience. Cheap money. So if you ever have a chance to go down there, like if you don't want, sneak your kids down to like Hershey Park or something, and then leave them there and go over to the Harley Davidson factory and go check that out. Just really, really cool. I will tell you though, I'll take a drink real quick. I am a little disappointed with Harley Davidson. I mean, I know that they are currently in the process of closing some factories in the United States and going to continue to build motorcycles in China and other countries. So, you know what? Join me and petition Harley Davidson. Don't go nowhere, man. Stay here. Build your motorcycles here where they belong in the United States with the American people. I know that if I was to ever buy or purchase another Harley Davidson, which, you know what, who knows? Maybe I will. I don't know. I could. Would I do so if I knew it was built outside of the country? And the answer is no. So I'm telling you, Harley Davidson, you really need to reconsider doing that. So listen, back to Pennsylvania. If you have a chance, go down there, go check it out. And while you're down there, go by Gobbler's Knob in Pensacola, Pennsylvania, and go check out the They got a little it looks like it's like a tree stump. They got a whole setup. You can do selfies. You can check the whole thing out. And then they say you can drive. I think it's a couple of miles away from there. You can drive, and it's where they filmed the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. If you guys have seen that one. Oh, you know what? I'm not a huge Bill Murray fan, but that one was all right. I thought that was a cool flick. That was all right. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Good. Moving on, guys. Moving on. A couple of crazy things happening this week. You know what? If you guys are hearing this today, it's probably Tuesday. So you know that, or if you didn't know, today is the State of the Union with the president, and this stuff just makes me crazy. Again, and I always say this with caution because I know I'm sure some of the fans of the show are not fans of Donald Trump, and this is not about being a fan of Donald Trump. This is just, again, the idea of this is one of those situations where it's the president of the United States, and it's such a critical, for me as an American, I really look forward to the State of the Union. I realize it's a lot of clapping and there's a lot of delay inside, but I do like to hear the president speak to the House and to the people in a manner that he's reporting out. I'll go back to even like when I was with Comcast, they used to do a road show with Tom Coughlin, which was fantastic. And what he would do is he would go from, FMA to FMA, and he would really just tell everybody, hey, look, this is the state of the company. This is how we're doing. This is how the stock is doing. This is how everything, here's some deals that we made. Here's some new technologies that are coming. And I used to remember how much I enjoyed that, because to me, there was really a lot of value knowing that, here I am, a part of something. I'm going to work every day, and, we all want to be a part of something, and I'm a part of something. And here is my leader, the captain of the ship telling me, that the company's doing well, and, we're heading in a good direction, and that things are looking great, and, we're going to continue to make money, and there's a future ahead of us. That's the way I look at the State of the Union. I look at it the same exact way. I say to myself, that's the president telling us how the country's doing. And, regardless of how you feel about the president, I always remind everybody, he's still the president, and he still has an obligation to report, how the country's doing. I want to know. Tell me. I mean, right? We have a right to know. So somehow, they're not going to vote on the impeachment until Wednesday. So the president will speak, Tuesday, which would be today, with that kind of looming in the background. Could the Democrats have just been kind of, listen, just, all right, just admit defeat and just move on with this, and then the country could move on, and then we could just continue to do great things. You know what, guys? I will tell you this, and I only say this because I feel like it's important. The president this week, the president signed an executive order that is actually going to put full staff. Okay, full staff. They're going to hire people, full staff, and their number one job and priority and purpose is going to be human trafficking, right? To prevent human trafficking. Like there's never been an office for that. There's never been an office to say, how do we prevent child, exploitation? How do we minimize or eliminate, human trafficking and slavery? We haven't done that. It's 2020, and we're still living in a world where this is happening, and it shouldn't be. And again, when is the last time you heard of an administration applying these executive orders and putting these people in certain positions that, you know what? I'll tell you what. If this saves one single person, one single child, is it worth it? That's an easy answer. The easy answer is yes. It's absolutely worth it. Of course it is. Because the idea is that we're here to save every single life. Every single life matters. And if the president's willing to do that and to do things like this to help, then you know what? I'm all about it. Let's stop it. Let's make it stop. That's what I'm saying. Right? So I mentioned 1988, right? So let's do this. Right? I don't want to talk about the president anymore. I don't want to talk about none of that. I just wanted to clear the air and get that out in the open because I just didn't want to I don't want to talk about it later, but I just wanted to get it out of the way now. So be on the lookout, guys. So make sure if you have a chance, watch the State of the Union. Otherwise, I always tell people, if you don't pay attention, then you have no reason to bitch. You can say what you want about the president, but if you're not educated and you don't know what's going on, then nobody's going to take you seriously. So invest some time and figure out what's going on so you can have an intelligent conversation about these things. The cost of living in 1988, the good times, right? Let's check that out. Let's see. So, if you wanted to buy a new house in 1988, it would cost you $91,600. Not bad, right? Not bad. Average income per year was about $24,000. That's not bad. Not bad. Rent $420. Average price for a new car was going to be about $10,000. And the price of gasoline, it went up from the last one, guys. 91 cents a gallon. 91 cents a gallon. I tell you what. I do remember it wasn't 1988. It was later on into, I want to say, the 90s, where I actually remember gas like at 99 cents a gallon. And that wasn't the average. The average, it was right around $2. And somehow something happened and it ended up driving. I remember people were just lined up constantly filling up their cars. I mean, people wouldn't even let it go to half before they were filling up their cars again. Crazy. Movie ticket was going to cost you about $3.50. Postage stamp 24 cents. Do you guys remember a postage stamp for 24 cents? Right? I don't. Dozen of eggs cost you 65 cents. And the gallon of milk was about $2, $1.89. And if you wanted a Logitech mouse, it's going to cost you $90. Huh? How about that? I bet you that was one of those clicker ones too, the cheap ones. IBM PC with 30 megabyte hard disk, mono monitor, and 512K memory would have cost you $1,249. Crazy. A Ford Taurus would have ran you about $9,000, and a Volkswagen Rabbit, my favorite. I love Volkswagen Rabbits. You know what? I would actually buy one now if I could find one. I would buy it. That was going to cost you about $7,000. Not bad at all. Guys, I don't know if you noticed, I do have a a little rasp in my voice. I've been kind of fighting off this cold for a little while. I'm taking my meds, I'm hydrating, I'm doing all the right things, but for some reason this thing keeps coming back to me, and I keep fighting it. But you know what? I'll take this in comparison to what's going on with that whole coronavirus thing. I will tell you. I was even today, you know what? I was actually surprised, speaking of the coronavirus, I was at the hospital today, and nobody had masks on. I was really surprised. I thought for sure I was going to walk in there and there's going to be everybody with like masks on and quarantine and look out for, and it wasn't. There wasn't a single sign about it. There was nobody doing anything extra. I mean, for goodness sake, I walked in the place, and as soon as I walked in, I was, every station where there was hand sanitizer, I was cleaning my hands, but nonetheless, no masks, no nothing. So I encourage you guys to be careful. They just, for us, I can't speak for everybody in the world or in the country, but I know for us, they just announced that a couple of people in Boston, again, we're a melting pot here. Everybody from all, people from all over the world are coming in and out of Boston constantly. It's a hub, so it doesn't surprise me that that's the case, but they were saying that somebody, local has got it. So, you got to be careful because they figure by the time they figure that out. And then, you know what? I also read that China is accusing the United States of over-exaggerating this. And listen, what do you mean over-exaggerate? How can you over-exaggerate something like this? The idea is to stop it, right, and prevent it. I'd hate to think that we're not doing anything about it. And I think step one is inform people and make them aware that, there's a virus out there that's going to make people sick and that they should try to avoid and protect themselves. Why would, you know what I mean? I don't understand. Like, I would imagine like something like this, you'd almost have to over prepare, right? That would be the idea, right? I'm guessing. You tell me, because I know for me and my family, we got supplies. We went out, we got supplies, and God forbid in the event that we need them, we have them. So, all in all, I will tell you the news has been very informative. I'm glad, to hear that they're actually putting out more and more information. Like, it's only transmitted, from person to person. It can't be from object to object, which is a concern of mine, especially in the business that I'm in and the things that I do, we do deal with some product that comes from China. So I want to make sure that, somebody that I know or my staff members are going to be touching a package that could be contaminated with this coronavirus, right? I mean, you want to try to prevent that at all costs. So for me, knowing that it's not transmitted that way, that it really is person to person, I can be a little more cautious, right? And then you can be cautious. And if you have small children, I mean, they're telling you, really be careful with kids, man. Kids are just carriers of everything, right? I mean, my granddaughter, she's 2. She's like a little germ, right? She's got everything, right? My little germ. She carries little germs. She got little germs everywhere. Well, guys, want to talk a little bit about technology? Let's talk a little bit about technology. All right, a little technology. The first transatlantic fiber optic cable was laid, and it could carry 40,000 telephone calls simultaneously. Guys, I will tell you that that is, in fact, when you think about 40,000 lines simultaneously, the fact that that was happening then, absolutely amazing. I mean, seriously, you got to think to yourself, we're talking analog, we're not talking digital, we're not talking compression, we're not talking any of those things. We're just talking this line, literally lines of copper wire carrying voice and then facsimile. So you had data at some point traveling through there. And then, of course, anybody remember AOL.com? Remember that? AOL? You got mail. Remember that? That was all because of the fact that you had, this fiber optic cable running across, it's like the Atlantic Ocean, right? Literally across it. Now we do everything satellite, nothing. But imagine that this stuff is sitting at the bottom of the ocean. It's amazing to me that we would even think that way. Stephen Hawking. You guys, you remember Stephen Hawking? Again, one of the most brilliant minds of our time. And he happened to publish a book, A Brief History of Time. If you haven't had a chance to read it, pretty cool concept. I mean, if you're really into that, again, guys, physics to me is one of those, it's almost one of those things I don't want to know, right? I mean, because physics for me takes the magic out of everything. I know you need it, right? I get it, Einstein, and you need all of that. And I kind of like my doctor. I need my doctor, but I don't want to know what he does for his job, because I don't need to know the gory details. You know what I mean? The same thing with physics. I'm glad we're here, and I know that we're all, literally on a rock floating in space around a big ball of fire, and I'm not quite sure how that all works, but sometimes physics, they can kind of figure that stuff out, and again, I don't know that I want to know the answer to that. So if you're a fan, go for it. It's called A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. If you don't remember this, the first major computer virus affects computers connected to the internet. They said that was the worm. If you guys remember the worm, and that actually that was it was almost one of those things. It was a catch-22. It was a good thing. It was a double-edged sword. It was a bad thing. It was a good thing because it really identified and showed the world that there was a vulnerability to data. You just couldn't just leave it out there for anybody to get at it. And two, I think it ushered a whole economy of virus protection, right? Like the Nortons and the McAfees of the world. Those companies exist solely to prevent viruses in these companies. And you even hear now, like, a lot of these hospitals and even like these like orphanages and things like that, like they get taken hostage, and they hold the data, and they say, if you don't pay this amount of money by this amount of time, we're going to erase all this data. Imagine being held hostage that way with all your information and all your data. I can't even imagine how difficult that is to make a decision like that. The rule is never, you never give a terrorist, but in this case, like, what do you have to, right? Because otherwise you're not going to get your stuff. But in most cases, they pay the money and they get the stuff back. So it almost encourages more and more people to do it. You just got to figure it out. And it goes into that dark web. I say that, I will tell you guys, I've never seen it. I've heard about it, but I've never seen it. And people say that there's a lot of shenanigans going on in the the dark web. The U.S. stealth bomber. Guys, you remember the stealth bomber? It was revealed. That was unbelievable to see that thing. I mean, just, the show of supremacy and technology, the idea that there was a vessel that could fly through the air that was completely undetectable, could fly at altitudes that no other plane could fly. Again, just the United States doing what the United States does. So, I'm not about the war machine. I'm really not. But in all fairness, to the right of technology, who's more advanced than the military, right? They're cutting edge. Everything they do, everybody they hire the most, brilliant contractors to build probably the most incredible technological advances of mankind. The military gets it first, and even you think GPS, for goodness sake, GPS. The military owned GPS before we got it. Let me take a drink. No, here we are. We take it for granted, and we use it every single day. Every single day we use GPS, and not even, again, like I said, we take it for granted. What else? You know what? This was pretty cool. U.S. Using carbon dating. If you didn't know, it was established. This was right around like 1988. This is pretty cool. It was established that the Turin shroud cannot be the burial cloth of Christ. I don't know if you guys remember that. They did a whole documentary about it, and they had that cloth there and it looked like it could have been like Jesus laying there, at his death. But they did the carbon dating and realized that although it does have a lot of, I would imagine quite a bit of religious significance, they did determine that it could not have been Christ himself because of the timeline, or the person Jesus, his body wouldn't have been at that time. So there you go, carbon dating. How cool is that? And now we know everything, right? They did the dinosaurs. They can carbon date pretty much almost anything and tell you pretty much within a year or so how old it is. This is great news, right? For anybody who's on Prozac, 1988, there it was. The antidepressant Prozac was introduced, which quickly became the market leader for treating depression. Prozac, there you go, making people happy one pill at a time. And then laser eye surgery in the U.S. There you go, laser eye surgery. Guys, I will tell you, and hit me up, guys, if you haven't, or if you have had laser eye surgery. I'm seriously considering it. I think I may do it. I'm actually in the market of for an eye doctor that will do the procedure. I'm just, guys, I'm done with glasses. I'm at that point where I could be at bifocals, so I'm not even sure if I can even get the laser, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go and talk to somebody. And if you guys know somebody or recommend somebody, let me know. Hit me up on my email at thebobbycudoshow@gmail.com, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Send me a message. Let me know, and help a brother out, man. Let me figure that out. Give me some. I always rather go with word of mouth. You know what I mean? Because things like that are scary. My eyes, I'll tell you guys a funny story. I don't wear contacts. And the reason why is I get this thing about my eye. Like an idiot. I'm in the mirror, and every time I go to put the contact in my eye, I close my eyelid, and I can't seem to tell my brain to leave my eye open so that I can put the contact in. So, needless to say, the frustration, quickly, I decided that I wasn't wearing contacts. So, which brings me back to my original point of LASIK, and that's, I think that's the way I'm going to go. So, I'm going to find me a good laser eye surgery doctor. United States president in 1988 was Mr. George H.W. Bush. He was a Republican. He defeated Michael Dukakis. You guys remember Michael Dukakis from Massachusetts? He was a Democrat of Massachusetts. Terrible. It's no surprise. And it's funny. I was talking to Rachel about it today. And if you look, they're doing the Iowa caucuses tonight. Big deal, big to do. And it blows my mind that if you look at the Democratic Party, the candidates right now that are running for the office of president. I mean, if you're a Democrat, you can't be happy about it. You really can't. I mean, I tell you, I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not a Republican. I am an independent. And I look at both sides, and I say to myself, "Gee, if this was a football game, right? And I'm looking, like, who am I? Who do I want to win? You know what I mean? I mean, seriously, like, look, if guys, Sanders, life support, right? The guy's on life support, pretty much, right? Biden, he's a creep, stranger danger. Do you really want, a creep like that in the office? I don't. I really don't. You got Elizabeth Warren. And again, who is it? Who are you going to pick? I find it hard to choose a candidate that's going to represent the Democratic Party, and it's going to be one of them fools because and then of course Bloomberg's trying to get in with all this crazy money. You know what? And here's something else. I'll say something else. If you don't know, I'm going to tell you and enlighten you right now. The NFL is tax exempt. The National Football League does not pay taxes. Okay? That I'm telling you with certainty. They do not pay taxes. Therefore, I believe that they should not have any influence or be able to broadcast any political message from any political party whatsoever, period. All right? You're not paying taxes, so therefore Bloomberg can't take out a $10 million advertising and put it during the Super Bowl. To me, it's unfair. I think it takes the you know what? It doesn't make it an even playing field for the candidates. It really doesn't. And to be honest with you, this Bloomberg coming in this late into he's going to screw everything up, guys. If you're a Democrat right now, you should be pissed off. You should be very, very mad because he is going to screw everything up. He's going to end up being an independent. I know Stevie mentioned it. So he's going to end up being an independent, and he's going to screw the whole thing up. And you could see it happening because there is no way that he is getting that. He's not getting that. The Democratic, he's not getting it. So I don't know, just another fool trying to get in, and I don't get it. You know what? To be quite honest, it makes me angry, and I don't typically get angry. Moving on. Did you guys know that in 1988, the very first McDonald's restaurant in the country, run by the Communist Party, opened in Belgrade, Yugoslavia? There you go. You could get a Big Mac in 1988. I remember that. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I do remember that being on the news, and that really paved the way for McDonald's. McDonald's was already worldwide, but to get into Russia, Communist Russia, Yugoslavia, Belgrade, like all of that, like to be in that. And then there was a couple, that was a little article. I just took a little snippet out of it, but there was, at that point, they kind of just got traction, and they spread out all over the place. But again, that's an American company. You know what I mean? Over in at that time in that climate, that was a big deal. That was a really, really big deal. So that was a cool moment for myself and for anybody who was around and remembers that. How about some cool stuff? How about some pop culture? You guys want to talk about some pop culture stuff? We could do that too. How about? All right. So let's say this: if you were born in 1988. Then let's see here. Then you would be sharing a birthday with the famous people such as Adele. I will tell you, I was very surprised that Adele was. Maybe because I thought she was older. I didn't realize how young she was. So Adele. Mr. Antonio Brown, whether you're a fan or not, you have to appreciate Mr. Antonio Brown and his talents. He's also born in 1981. Conor McGregor, another guy, 1988. Man, Mr. Kevin Durant with the Brooklyn Nets. How about that? So you guys got to share a birthday with some pretty cool peeps. That's pretty cool. Popular movies of 1988. We're going to talk about those. We had Rain Man. Who didn't watch Rain Man with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman, right? That was a good flick. Good premise, pretty cool. And that was, that was pre Tom Cruise being douchey. I think Tom Cruise is a douche now, the whole Katie. Like when he was jumping on Oprah's couch, like he douchebag alert. He's been a douchebag ever since. He's big into that Scientology thing too. He's like the grand master of Scientology. And he's just a weird cat, man. That's just a weird dude. Another movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Did you guys go see that? I wouldn't go see it. Terrible. I didn't like it. I don't know if you guys did. Big with Tom Hanks. That was an awesome movie, right? Who didn't enjoy that? That was a cool premise. The idea that he, at the carnival, and he makes the wish, I want to be big, and next thing you know, he wakes up and you know what? And that again, that was Tom Hanks when Tom Hanks was funny, and Tom Hanks wasn't so pretentious. Twins with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was a good flick too, and you know that was the Arnold Schwarzenegger era. He was in every single movie, Jingle All the Way, Commando, you name it. Like it was Arnold Schwarzenegger was literally in every. It was him, Sylvester Stallone, and what's the other guy's name there? The karate guy there. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name. He did not Fight Club, Bloodsport. You know what? It'll come to me. I know I can't forgive myself because his name is like right on the tip of my tongue. Crocodile Dundee 2, Die Hard. Die Hard was another one with Bruce Willis. Bruce, that was a good flick, and it was a good holiday flick, and it was fun, and it was action packed, had a good story to it. How about Naked Gun? That was a good movie. That was with Leslie Nielsen, and that was O.J. Simpson. Right? Did you guys remember that? O.J. Simpson was in The Naked Gun. Beetlejuice with Tim Burton. Guys, Tim Burton, right? Like, a little weird, right? But that, if you guys don't remember, that was Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin, right? And Mr. Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, right? There you go. I almost forgot that Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin were in that. Go figure that out. They were so young. What else? A Fish Called Wanda. If you guys remember that. That was a weird movie. That was one of those European movies. I wasn't a big fan. I put it in there because I think it's important to culture, but ultimately I wasn't a huge fan. And Friday the 13th, and you won't believe this one. Part 7, The New Blood, right? I think they went, anybody know how many Friday the 13th there are? I'm curious. I'm actually going to look that up at some point. I'm curious to see how many they finally got to. Because amazing that you can run that many. It's the same movie over and over again, right? And then they brought Freddy in, and I think Jason and Freddy were fighting the alien maybe at some point. No, and how about the how about the Predator? Wasn't Freddy and Jason fighting the Predator and the alien? I think at this point, yeah, I think they did like a cross-platform thing going on there. And that's pretty much it for movies, guys. That's pretty much it. And guess what? You know what? It is the time, my favorite time anyway, of the podcast where we talk about one of my most favorite things in the whole world, and that is music. I love music. You guys know that I love music. And in 1988, there were a couple of very popular bands that were out. This first one I was kind of on the fence about, but I figured it was important because it's culture and history, and I probably should include them. So give this one a listen, and let's see if you can guess who this is. Let's see. This was Enya. I'll tell you what, if you guys want to sleep, on more than one occasion, I've actually said, "Hey Google, play Enya," and it just plays all night long. One Enya song after another, and I think Enigma gets mixed in there too. Great sleeping music. But if you didn't know, that was off their album Flow. Enya is actually, I say they. Enya is a person. She's a singer, songwriter, and a musician. She does all the stuff herself. Very impressive. And that was her second album. So there you go. Sail away, right? I mean, and you could sail away if you want to. This next one, guys, is probably one of my favorite. And I will tell you, I'm a little embarrassed. And I'll tell you why in a second. Once we talk about this individual, I had no idea. I almost feel like time capsule, like I lost time with this guy. You're going to hear the song. You're going to know who it is. And when I tell you, it's going to kind of bum you out a little bit. So let's just get right to it. Let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Palmer. Did you know and if you didn't know, Mr. Robert Palmer, Simply Irresistible. Do you guys know he passed away on September 26th of 2003 in Paris, France at the age of 54 years old? I swear to you, I thought he was still alive. I thought Robert Palmer was among us. I had no idea that he had passed away. So, rest in peace to you, sir. So much influence in the 80s. This guy wrote a lot of music for a lot of people. Kind of did his own little solo thing for a little bit. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Rest in peace, Mr. Robert Palmer. I had no idea he had passed away. Shame on me, right? Like, you know, I pretend like I know all about music. I don't even know the guy is dead. Shame on me. You know, this next band, I will tell you that I'm only going to play this because I didn't even know this band existed. I'm going to play it because I'm going to be sure that there's someone out there, probably my brother Lou, shout out brother Lou, who has heard this band before and be like, "Why you didn't mention that band?" You know what? I have never heard of this band. Maybe you guys have. Maybe I'll enlighten you. Maybe I won't. Let's give it a shot. I just thought it was pretty cool. It was something different. And here we go. And the name of the band is Eraser. And it's called A Little Respect. Do you know this song? It was like top of the charts in 1988. Okay. Well, there you go. Remember that whole comment I made about cocaine in the 80s? There you go. This was these guys were the result of that. Oh, funny. This next band, guys, is really, really cool. I will tell you guys, I am not a deep-seated fan. They are quite popular. They've been very popular. They continue to be popular. I think they're still touring, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, they're one of these. As a matter of fact, they were. You'll know who I'm talking about once I tell you this. At one point, Apple actually forced you to have. I think they still do. If you have iTunes in your iPhone, if you go and look, you're going to see that you have this band's album in your phone. If you have an Apple device, I don't know if they still do it, but I know that they did it for a while. And of course, I am talking about. Talking about the great band U2.
You say you want diamonds on a ring of gold. You say you want your story to remain untold, but all the promises we made.
And this was off their album Rattle and Hum. It was a hybrid live studio album. I'm really not into their commercial stuff really so much. I really wanted to pick something good, something substance, and then this is a great jam. All I Want in You. It's a good jam. I mean, that's U2. If you like U2, you'll appreciate that one. And this next band, I will warn you all. Again, another inclusion by default. I mean, because you have to. If you didn't, then I'm not true to the word of delivering a good message, and that message would have to include. I mean, these guys have been around forever. If you didn't know, I think it was probably in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s. These guys popped up, and they've been putting music out like nonstop. But this song, funny, went along with another movie by someone I mentioned earlier, Tom Cruise. If you remember the movie Cocktail, jeez, absolutely. I mean, you know what? Go watch it for yourself. Go check it out. But you couldn't watch it. This was what it was all about right here.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you. Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama. Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go? Jamaica, off the Florida Keys.
So, of course, I'm talking about the Beach Boys. Kokomo. The truth is, there is no island Kokomo off the Florida Keys. It doesn't exist. So, the whole song's a lie. It's all a lie. But you know what? I challenge you. Every single one of you will listen to this. This was on the radio constantly, and they played it over and over and over and over again.
Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo.
Oh my goodness. Somebody drive that bus off the road. So that was a big deal, guys. That was, and again, it was with that movie Cocktail, Tom Cruise. You can go watch that for yourselves and form your own opinions. I don't want to sway your opinion, but it was a rough one to watch. And this next one, I don't typically, gee boy, we got a lot of this going on, huh? I don't typically talk about this artist. I don't know. For obvious reasons, my own. Even in, I guess when I can control the content, I would never want to give this individual, just because, some of you may think one way, I think another, and it doesn't really matter. But ultimately, he's an artist, and I appreciate the music that he created. And in this case, 1988, this was a huge song. It was very controversial. And once I play it, you guys will know I'm talking about none other than Michael Jackson. And the name of the song was Dirty Diana.
You never make me stay, so take your weight off of me. I know your every move, so won't you just let me be? I've been here times before, but I was too blind.
And they weren't playing this. They wouldn't play this on the radio, if you remember. It wasn't happening. They wouldn't do it. It was too risque. Diana. And that was off his Bad album. If you guys remember that, I mean, we're talking monumental sales on that album. Ridiculous. But that was Michael Jackson. I mean, the king of pop, right? That's what he was, the king of pop. Amazing to think that would be his legacy. Shame, really. But this next artist, you guys will appreciate, and this is a little more fun. As a matter of fact, this artist, she's lucky to be alive. I know that she happened to be, they were touring, she was with a band touring, and they were in a terrible bus accident, and she had some major surgery done. And thankfully, she made out all right, and she had a very successful career. I believe she married a producer, did very, very well. And, of course, I am talking about none other Then Miss Gloria Estefan, accompanied by the Miami Sound Machine. Oh, you know you're dancing right now. How could you help it, right? It was good stuff. It was good stuff.
At night, when you turn off all the lights, there's no place that you can hide.
And she would put on an amazing show. I mean, if you've ever seen any of her concerts that they would put on, it was fanfare. The bands, it was always a full out, literally almost a full out orchestra playing for her. Good for you, Gloria. And I think she's still playing. She's still doing well. Good for you. Good for you. Moving on from Gloria. How about this band? You guys will like this one. I don't have too many of these today, but I just got a couple, and I think these are just very, very important. How about this one? Do you remember this one? Did you call on a Friday night? Did you make that special dedication?
Well, you called me up this morning, told me about the new love you found. I said I'm happy for you.
Of course, I'm talking about Chicago.
I'm really happy for you. Found someone else, I guess I won't be coming round. I guess it's over, baby. It's really over.
And that was funny. This was off their album Chicago 19, but it was their 16th studio album, so figure that out. There must be some kind of encoded message there, who knows. And this next artist, you guys will really appreciate this one, and I know you will, because I do. And then we're pretty much close to it's my favorite segment of the show, guys. But how about this one? You ready for this one? You guys are going to love this one. Here we go. Of course, I'm talking about the late George Michael. And this song hit number one for 20 straight weeks. And that was off his album Faith, and that was huge. I believe, I don't want to make things up, I think Faith was his first solo album when he left Wham. And in all fairness, Wham was kind of hokey. But you know what? Given the 80s, it got him in, it got his foot in the door, right? And then he created his own music. And then Faith was a huge album for him. And, ever since then, the guy was pretty popular and had a pretty successful career. So good for you, Rest in peace, George Michael. We miss you. Did anybody look better in, leather pants and a leather jacket playing the guitar? No. Rest in peace, man. And of course, guys, I got one more here. Let's do this one. You guys are gonna love this one. So listen, if you couldn't make it through the 80s. Thank you, George Michael. You couldn't make it through the 80s without hearing this band play. And even now, they still are relevant. Especially if you're into sports. They constantly play certain types. Guns N' Roses is making money, and they will continue to make money. But when you talk about the band, this is the stuff I want to talk about right here. This is the stuff that you built a whole generation on. When you heard this riff and Slash just ripping this guitar up, and then the intro with Axl Rose, monumental moments. It takes you back. And if this doesn't take you back, man, nothing will. Sweet Child of Mine. off their album Appetite for Destruction. Ladies and gentlemen, Guns N' Roses.
She's got a smile that it seems to me reminds me of childhood memories where everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky. Now and then when I see her face,
Doesn't it take you back?
takes me away to that special place.
It takes me to that special place. It really does.
Probably break down and
I'd love to go back. It was good times, guys, right? Awesome music, man. People were partying, having a good time. Yeah, Guns N' Roses. I'll never forget it. I tell you, I do remember my wife Rachel wearing her Guns N' Roses shirt. Everybody had one of those shirts, with the two guns and the right. Everybody had one of those shirts. Well, that's guys, that's pretty much it for the music for this podcast. What'd you think? I hope you enjoyed it. I did. I love that segment. I love doing that with you guys. Absolutely love it. Again, I keep mentioning it to you, and I'll say it again and again and again. I absolutely love music. I love everything about it. I love the way, for me personally, guys, I mentioned it before in the past, it's bookmarks for me. Like when I hear certain songs and I hear certain music, it really takes me back to those moments, and I can almost associate a memory with every song that I enjoy hearing. So, why wouldn't I? What a great thing to have, and I love that I can share that with you guys, and I love that it's a part of the podcast. And the really cool thing is, I'll tell you this, some people ask me, gee, how is it you're able to use the music on the podcast, licensing and everything else? Well, the truth is I ask permission. I actually apply for permission for the songs and get the rights to play them. I mean, of course, I'm using them for educational purposes. I don't typically play the songs, or never really do play the songs in their entirety. And even if I play them, I typically voice over the song. So it really truly is for educational purposes. I'm not playing the song for any other reason other than the fact that I want to share the experience with you. Maybe enlighten you a little bit about the band, maybe enlighten you a little bit about the song. But ultimately, it works out fantastic. And the fact that, I'll give you credit to all the music, the companies out there, Warner Brothers, Sony, just to name a few that have been working with me. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys are allowing me to use these songs and share them. Because, I mean, ultimately, then they're just, what are they? They're just lost in some vault somewhere and nobody's hearing these things. So the fact that we can share this music with each other I think is absolutely wonderful, and I was talking to Rachel about it the other day, and I hate to keep mentioning it, but I mentioned it, like, if I had to think of the podcast, and I've probably mentioned this in the past, is I really would love for you to feel like I'm in your passenger seat with you, that we're flicking through the radio together and we're listening to music and we're kind of stuck in this time capsule of whatever year it happens to be. I really I pick the years at random. I don't really look for, unless something or someone relevant will be on the show or something really, something relevant happens. But typically, I try to kind of reach my hand in the hat and pull out a year and go with that, because, ultimately every year, in my lifetime is relevant, to me, and, not to mention what's happened outside of my lifetime, but just in my lifetime. And if I can go through the years of my life and share my experiences along with some of the great music, and TV shows and movies and media that I experience, why wouldn't I do that? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't I remind you, maybe of some of the great things that maybe you forget about, that to me, that's like, that's the prize in the Cracker Jack box is, the Cracker Jack box, the Cracker Jacks are good. But when you get in there and you open up the little package and you get that cool toy, doesn't that just make it even better? Right. I mean, that's right. That's what I would think. I would like to think anyway. But moving on, guys, I don't want to get stuck on that, but I had a couple of TV shows I want to talk about from 1988 that I hope you guys will enjoy. And I will tell you, there was like a list, no joke, like a legit list of TV shows. So I kind of had to filter through some of those. I mean, again, the show can only be so long, guys. So I picked through the ones that I thought would be the most fun to kind of try to guess. So I'm going to play the first one for you. And let's see. I'm going to give you a second and see if you can remember this great TV show that was out in 1988. And here you go. What do you think? Do you remember it? I love this show. Do you remember? I'm going to tell you. You ready? Night Court. It was Night Court. With Bull. Right? It was great. I loved that show. And it would come on, and it was funny. Night Court, it would come on late, right? I remember the show coming on late, and it was good. That was very, very good. A little risque, but the topics were always different. It always seemed like it was a different show, different topics. You could only imagine the things that would happen in a courthouse. And, quite honestly, I can't imagine why somebody hasn't done a remake on that, because what a great idea, right? Like, of all the happenings and shenanigans happening in a courthouse, especially like Night Court. Like in that situation. Oh, George Harry. It was great. A great one. All right. This one, I'm giving you this one because I want to give everybody a shot. So this one, I know you're going to guess this one as soon as I start playing it. But in all fairness, it is a classic, and I needed to share this with you. Again, it's part of the show. So here you go.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away?
And of course,
All those nights when
I'm
you
talking
got no
about
lights, the
Cheers,
check was in the
right?
mail,
Where everybody knows your name.
and your little angel hung the cat up by its tail.
Can I tell you a secret?
And your third fiance didn't show.
I wasn't a huge fan.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
I do want to go where everybody knows my name, but I wasn't a huge fan of the TV show. So maybe you were, but I wasn't. But this next one, I was a huge fan, and I hope you were too. And if you were, then you're going to guess it as soon as I start to play it. And here you go. What do you think?
There's a time for love and a time for living. You take a chance and face the
Tony Danza.
open road and a road that's hidden. A brand new life around the bend.
And of course, I'm talking about Who's the Boss?
Lost a dream or two. Found
With Tony and Samantha, they were already get together already. I mean, my goodness, they made us wait how many years for them to hook up? I mean, it was ridiculous. The tension was crazy, right?
the choice is up to you, my friend.
What a great show, right? And you know what? When that came out, that was kind of muddy water, right? People, relationships, you know what I mean? It was. If you go back and you watch some of these shows, I tell you, I watch them and sometimes I get a little uncomfortable because again, back then what was okay wasn't always the case, or isn't the case today, right? I mean, that was right. I would think so. And I'm going to give you this one. Let's see. You ready? Let's see. Let's do this one right here, and let's see if you get this one. I don't know if I would guess this one, but I knew once I knew because I make the show.
Show me that smile again.
If you haven't guessed it by now, you won't. That was the theme song for Growing Pains.
Best is ready to begin.
That was one of the hottest TV shows, right? It really was. Yep, there it was. Good show. It was a good show. I watched it. I enjoyed it. And of course, this last one is got to be one of my most favorite TV shows. And again, one of these low budget shows, but I think they did just a fantastic job putting it together. And you know what? Even now, it's spun off a bunch of careers for a bunch of people. But back then, this is what was on TV. And once I'm actually going to know what this one is. Of course, you know what this is, right? Married with Children, Al Bundy, Peggy, right? Do you remember?
You can't have one without the other.
What'd you think? What'd you think of our TV show, right? TV show recap, right? Wasn't that fantastic? Right? Wasn't it? And just for the record, it was Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's who I was thinking of earlier with Donald Schwarzenegger. Right? I told you guys it would come to me. It would just be a matter of time. I just needed to stew on it for a while. So, right? So there you go, guys. That was some TV shows from the 1980s, or I should say 1988. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I super enjoyed it because I just remember all those shows. And there was so many of them. What else was it? To take the good, to take the bad. The Facts of Life was on. There was a bunch of them that were on. It was all those. It was like that era. Silver Spoons. It was a couple of them that were on that you really would remember. And that was just a couple of them. But there was a lot of great TV on if you were in the 80s. And everything was moral, right? Everything was morally driven. Everything was everybody was trying to teach you how to be a better person, right? That's what it seemed like anyway, right? Back then. Great. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And let's do this. It was two ways. There's two ways I was going to go out, and we're an hour and 18 minutes in, and I tend to ramble a little bit, right? Not that you don't know that already, but a couple of things I wanted to talk about. And one, I don't want to get overshadowed by the other. And one is kind of fun, and the other one really isn't. So let's talk about shows to watch. I know I did this segment last episode, and I really wanted to do it again because I got to tell you guys, I have become borderline obsessed with Netflix. I think Netflix is whatever they're doing, whoever they hire over there, they're doing it, and they're doing it right. Some of the most riveting, entertaining TV shows on television right now, hands down. I mean, without question. You turn it on, and they got a little bit of everything for everything. And last week into this week, if you haven't watched it, I might have mentioned it in the last episode. The name of the show is called, the series is called Cold Case. And it really is just absolutely amazing. And it's about, and again, I know I mentioned it to you guys before, I can't watch a show unless there's closure. Like I need closure. I can't watch a show and leave it open-ended. It bothers me. And in this case, the Cold Case, it almost teases that sensation where you get the story, about this unfortunate murder. And some of these murders, like for the one we watched, it's season 2, by the way. For the one we watched today, it was for a young lady, and it had been 22 years. Imagine waiting 22 years to find out that who the murderer or the responsible party is for your loved one. Imagine waiting 22 years. And in this case, that's exactly what it is. So a lot of these episodes are just so touching because you can imagine, it's one thing to lose a loved one, a child, or anyone for that matter, but to lose someone and not know who was responsible is even more devastating, I would imagine. And in this case here, it was a small town, and the dad, who was a single dad raising his daughter, the one that was murdered, he never gave up. And what he did, and you think about it, I mean, just a a glimpse of brilliance, and that was he continued to remind everyone that there was still a murderer among them. Everyone might have forgotten that his daughter was murdered, but it's one thing to remind people that the person that murdered her is still out there and it hasn't been found. So it put a sense of urgency on everybody, and I believe that that's what maintained the traction for them to go ahead and actually find the people that were responsible for this beautiful woman's life. It's inspiring to see that there is a commitment and there are people out there that are willing to do anything and to go to any means possible to find justice for someone else. So if you haven't had a chance, guys, go over there on Netflix. It's out right now. Season 1, Season 2, absolutely phenomenal. And still on Netflix, Night on Earth. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Check this out. They actually go all over the world and they record wildlife with these amazing night vision cameras. And the amazing thing is that these cameras literally look like the image you're watching. It looks like it's daytime, and it's such a cool scene. Like to see it the way that it looks. Probably some of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life, like hands down, some of the coolest images that I've ever seen in my life. They recorded, the cheetahs hunting at night, which they said never happened. Just some of the most. Guys, if you want to just some amazing programming that's going to enlighten you, go check that out. It's Night on Earth, and I think it's one of the first things that pops up, and maybe for me because it knows. Like Netflix kind of profiles me and it knows what I like. You might have to look for it, but if you have to, it's called Night on Earth. And of course, last but not least, there is no pattern here, by the way, guys. I am not a serial killer. The name of the show, it's actually Season 2, I Am a Killer, and it is absolutely riveting. It is from the mouth of these serial killers or these murderers. Or these killers that are in prison, and the way that they edit it and they put the show together is they give the killer the first segment of the show, so you're hearing it from one side. Again, I'm a strong believer. Everyone, guys, I'm a strong believer. There's two sides to every story, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. And this show really takes advantage of that prospect, and it actually gives the killer the opportunity to tell their side of the story before you get to the victims and the victim's side of the story. So you almost kind of, I hate to say you form an opinion right in the beginning, but you kind of do, regardless of what direction you form your opinion with nay or for. But in this case, you then change your mind, or you go back and forth and you shenanigans, you don't know shenanigans. But it's a really, really cool show. It makes you think. And is really, really going to be worth your time. So if you have a chance, go check it out. It's Season 2 on Netflix, I Am a Killer. Go check that out if you haven't. And that is some good stuff for your brain. And that's pretty much my recommendations for shows to watch for this week on episode 25, which brings me to, I guess this will be just me walking us out. And really the topic that I wanted to talk about today, and that was something very, very important. And that really, and I'm sure you guys have all heard about it or seen it in social media. And that was, you know what? Let's do this. Let me do something different here. Let me play something, right? And then while I play this amazing work of art, I want to talk about what I want to talk about. So let's do that. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And of course, what I'm playing here is Demi Lovato's version of the national anthem for the Super Bowl.
Can you see by the dawn's light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming.
Now, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, then nothing will. So that was Demi Lovato, who did an absolutely amazing, amazing job at singing our national anthem at one of, if not the largest sporting events to date, right? And if you happen to catch social media, you must have seen that Beyonce and Mr. Jay-Z did not stand up for the national anthem. And I have a couple of things to say about that. One, shame on you. And I don't want to make this, the out of my podcast today, but I really want to address it because I think it's absolutely shameful. One, I kind of, again, doing some research for the show, and you wouldn't know it, but in 2013, Miss Beyonce Knowles, Mrs. Carter, she was right there when President Obama was being inaugurated. She went out and she sang the national anthem. So, my question is what made it okay to sing it then, and now you don't stand for it. You sit and you know what, and even that, like, show a little respect for the fellow artist who is standing in the middle of that field singing that national anthem. And Beyonce, you did it once too. You sang for the Super Bowl and you sang the national anthem for the Super Bowl. So now, all high and mighty, you and Jay-Z sitting in your chairs, you got $1 bazillion and you think you're trying to make a point. But at the end of the day, it's absolutely shameful that you sit there, with that smug on your face, like you guys are almighty and better than everyone else. And somehow you're teaching your daughter that's what you're teaching your daughter. You guys you go into the bank and you're cashing the checks and you love the American dollar, but you won't go ahead and you won't support the troops and the ones that are making the ultimate sacrifice every single day so that you can go to the bank and cash all that money, right? And live like you're hip hop royalty. You know what I mean? Quite honestly, Jay-Z, you know what I think? I think Jay-Z's been lucky. I think Jay-Z might have come across some money and hooked himself up with the right people, even finding, like Rihanna and the amount of money that she's made him. But, people act like Jay-Z is something great and something wonderful and the Black Album. And you know what? I got to be honest with you. I've listened to pretty much all of Jay-Z's music and his discography, and I'm not impressed. If you want to talk about rhymes and rapping and talking about struggle, there are a lot of rappers out there that I believe had more soul and more conviction than Jay-Z. I don't think Jay-Z ever had enough struggle in his life to be even an iota or pinnacle to be an artist such as, let's just say, like a Tupac Shakur. Let's get even more modern. Let's talk about 50 Cent. There's somebody who built a brand for himself, spoke about his life, his struggle. Guy was shot 9 times and somehow built an empire off that. Jay-Z, I just think you got lucky, buddy. And then the fact that you met Beyonce and, granted, let's not take anything away from Beyonce, because the truth is that she does have an amazing voice. We can't deny that. She has talent. She can dance, total package. But quite honestly, you're an ugly person. And Jay-Z, you're an ugly person. When you don't support the country of the people that are supporting you, I think that's pretty shameful. I really do. I think that's pretty, that's unhuman, when you really, really think about it. And when you show up to the Super Bowl, and your box seats, right? You don't even have the common courtesy to stand up and salute the flag and the national anthem of this great nation. Shame on you, Beyonce, and shame on you, Jay-Z. And I will tell you, and that's not just coming from me. My wife Rachel is a huge Beyonce fan. She has been forever. Her and I even kind of back and forth and bicker about her and. I've never really been a huge fan. Again, like I said, I respect her talent, but her as an artist, I have not been a fan. And again, I repeat, I'm not a huge Jay-Z fan either. But I can appreciate, maybe being at the right place at the right time. He's a smart businessman. I think he's a smarter businessman than he is a rapper. But it makes me mad, and it really, really did bother me. And I tend not to try. I try not to let those things get to me. But when I saw it. It's just the irony in all of it, that you're at the Super Bowl, Demi Lovato is singing the national anthem, and you don't even have the respect to stand up and show, show the gratitude to the flag and to our soldiers who are overseas fighting for the good fight and making the ultimate sacrifice every single day, right? And if that doesn't bother you guys, then something's wrong with you. I mean, I have to believe that, if you're listening to this show, you're like-minded, and things like that are going to bother you, regardless of where you stand and how you feel about this administration. It doesn't matter. We're all Americans, and we need to support each other. I mean, we always need to support each other. It can't be when it's convenient. So when you're up there and, and President Obama is being inaugurated and you decide you're going to sing the national anthem and then you don't even stand for it when it comes time for the national anthem. Again, you can't. One of those things, it's either you do or you don't. You don't pick and choose when you feel like it. The world is still the same place. It's still the same flag. And it still represents the same morals and beliefs and struggles that we have had all along the way. So I say to you, Beyonce and Jay-Z, you really need to reconsider and really think about your place in society and understand that, you know what? People aren't going to take your shit. And quite honestly, kind of like, listen, just take a look at the Prince and the Duchess there who are in Canada. You know what? That's going to be quick. Nobody's going to give a shit about them in another week or so, right? Like big to do. They're over there now. They want no part of it. Before you know it, they will be so irrelevant because they no longer have any power. So what are they going to do? They'll do a reality show and people will watch a reality show. But ultimately, are they doing any good for anybody other than themselves? And the answer is no. They're only doing it for themselves. That's really it. Wow, guys, talk about an episode and a half, right? This is definitely one of them. 25. Got me a little fired up, got me a little going. Again, I won't lie to you guys, I'm a little off my game here a little bit. The week, I'm a little later into the week. I got a couple of days off. I got a couple of things going on the backside here that I need to take care of. But I thought it was very, very important for me to get behind the microphone and deliver a message to you guys because, granted, I mean, for me, I need this and I need to get it out there because I want this to be amazing. I want this to be great, and I think it can't stop. I think if I stop, I don't know that I'm going to lose momentum. I want to continue. I will tell you, Twitter. I mean, the Bobby Couto Show on Twitter is on fire every day. More and more followers, which only means the show is only getting more and more influence, more and more popular, more and more listeners, which is great because that's the goal here, guys, is to increase the listenership and to make the show really, really great. And I will tell you guys, I'm going to let you in on the ground floor a little secret. Over the weekend, I was talking to friends and loved an idea that was brought to my attention, and I was really looking at it and thinking about it and considering it. As you all know, guys, I am a huge supporter of the Shriners Children's Hospital. I think what they do there is an amazing thing. I think it's an amazing thing for all of those involved. So with that said, I was thinking about doing an event, maybe renting a hall, maybe selling some tickets, maybe looking for some sponsors, people to donate some products. Maybe we could do a raffle. And I thought maybe it'd be a great night, have some drinks, maybe some food. Have food. If we do tickets, then I'd like to do like maybe you could choose what you'd like to eat, have a dinner, clear the stage, maybe do a live podcast so to share with everyone. So we do like a podcast event. And then you have a DJ, we could dance, have some drinks, enjoy a night together. How amazing would that be, right? So that's something I'm toying with now, and I think if we were to do that, maybe we probably do it right around October. Maybe like that. I'm thinking like maybe the Saturday before Halloween. Let me know what you think of that idea. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. Hit me up, the Bobby Couto Show at gmail.com, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Send me a direct message. Send me a message there. And of course, the website, the BobbyCoutoShow.com. Go check it out. Leave me a message and tell me what you think. Do you think you guys would be interested in going to an event like that? I mean, it would really the ultimate goal here would be to generate some charity, some revenue for the Shriners Children's Hospital. That would be the goal. And of course, nothing wrong with having a good time raising money. So if you're all interested, if anybody's interested, hit me up. Let me know what you think, because it's definitely something I want to do. And again, like I said, I think if it's something we're going to do and it's going to be successful, then we need to start the groundwork on it now and really get some sponsors and some commitments, because if we're going to do this, I want it to be right. All right? And speaking of charities, guys, Etsy, right? Go check it out and give the show a little charity, right? Etsy.com/shop/the Bobby Kudo Show. And go show your support, guys. T-shirt, beanie. We've sold a couple more. Again, like I mentioned before, like the momentum has slowed down quite a bit with the merchandising, but I'm still motivated. I'm still excited and still talking about it. So if you have a chance, go over to Etsy. Go show support for the show. Get a T-shirt. Wear it proudly. And if you're listening, then share it, because there are other people out there that should be listening. So you need to let everybody know, hey, listen. Go listen to the Bobby Kudo Show, because it's always an awesome show, right? Where else are you going to hear this kind of content and get all this information and fun information all at once, right? Nowhere. You have to, right? You have to come here. You can't get it anywhere else. So show your support for the show, guys, and visit Etsy. And also, I remind you all, Apple Podcast. Listen, the reviews are very, very important, guys. I can't do it myself, and I already gave. I won't lie to you guys. I already gave myself 5 stars. I can only do it once, so I need you guys to go in there, and ladies, and children, everybody, go in there and show your support for the show, man. Just quick review, quick like. Just if you click the 5 stars, you know the rule. If you're gonna give me less than 4 stars, you got to leave a comment. And if you're giving me 5 stars, then I think you should be leaving me a comment, right? Tell me what I'm doing right. You know what I mean? I appreciate it. And again, for me, it's really the legitimacy of the show, and it's very, very important. I don't know if a lot of you aren't like maybe constant podcasters, maybe part-time podcasters, but anybody who understands the podcast world, those reviews and subscribers is very, very important, especially on that Apple. Apple seems to be like the foundation of everything. Like it's everything for podcast, is Apple, and then of course everybody else is like secondary, which kind of feeds off. It's hard to explain, and maybe at some point we could talk about it, but I'm not going to bore you with the details of that right now. Since I got your ear and we're listening to this amazing content. So again, guys, crazy week for me. If you're listening to this now, today it's probably Tuesday. And I apologize for the delay on that, but I assure you that it was with great need that I needed to delay the podcast for just a day or two. Nothing too crazy. I mean, I hope you guys aren't feeling too much. I know Stevie, you mentioned that you miss it on Monday. I know, buddy. Joe, you too. I'm sure. The OGs, man. You guys are amazing, and any opportunity I ever have to thank you, Joe, Steve, Randy, Lou, Gary, Marcos. I know. I hate to mention names because I know there's so many of you that are listening, and I just don't want to forget anybody. But those are some of the few that are really interactive with me on the social media, and so I just wanted to give them a shout out. I just feel like I owe a whole lot to those original listeners, and without you guys, the show would have never had any momentum, and I wouldn't be here on episode 25 talking about episode 26 and talking about an event in October. How amazing is that to even be in this realm of thought, in that this is the direction that my life is going. I will tell you all that I could not be happier with the success of the podcast. I think that what we're doing here is relevant and important. I think we're finally starting to get, I like to call it the like rhythm. You know what I mean? Like you certain things you're expecting out of the show when you turn it on, and I hope that I'm staying consistent with that and giving you what you need. But I'm always looking for new ideas. I'm always looking for fresh ideas and new content, and would love to bring in new segments into the show. So share your ideas with me. Again, the Bobby Kudo Show at gmail.com, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I mean, you can call me. Call me, 508-475-9499. 508-475-9499. 9499. Call the Bobby Kudo Show. I'll answer the phone. Leave me a message. Maybe I'll play it on the show, right? Why wouldn't you do that? Why? I mean, if you could, why not, right? Listen, if you could call the president, wouldn't you call him? I'm telling you, you can call the Bobby Kudo Show. Call me. I'd love to hear you. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your ideas, and I'd share them. I'd share them on the show. And guys, we're pretty much getting to the end here, and I don't want to stop rambling about nothing, but just a couple of final things that I wanted to just get to you before we sign off on episode 25, and that is if you haven't had a chance to go and listen, guys, listen. The second thought episode was absolutely phenomenal with Steve. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, you gotta go listen to it. So go listen to it now, right after you're done with this one. Go over there and hit that one. I will tell you it's a 3-hour episode, but man, we covered so much ground. It was so much fun. And I was listening to it again today, and it's funny. The second, the third, the fourth time I listen, and I keep picking up new stuff, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And I realize how much chemistry him and I have, and I will let the cat out of the bag and tell you that Steve has been toying with the idea of starting a podcast. So if you guys follow me on Instagram or Twitter, he follows me as well. He comments often. So go over there, guys. Give him a follow and let him know what you think. And he's got some ideas for a podcast. I mean, it would really be related to, I think he's looking to do something along the lines of a Second Amendment based podcast, which I think, you can never have too many of. Anytime we're talking about our rights, and there are people out there that are knowledgeable and know about our rights, talking about it, that's something that I'm always looking forward to and always eager to ingest. So I'm working with Steve now, and actually I wanted to. I haven't even spoken to him about it yet, but I was going to offer him the studio. If he wanted to record his first podcast episode, he could do it here in the studio. So he's probably hearing it for the first time right now through the podcast. But I will hit him up. And just let me know what you think, guys. You think if that's a great idea? Maybe if you think maybe we could have Steve back on the show here. Maybe segment his podcast. Maybe get a couple of topics going with him. Maybe you guys could feed us some topics and just, hey, listen, we're all in this together. And if I can help Stevie get this off the ground, and he can build something like we have here, how great would that be, right? I mean, just almost like a spinoff, right? How cool would that be? And the idea that I could help him with that. Really makes me happy and excited because I know that this isn't easy. It's not an easy thing to do, but I personally, between you and I think he has an amazing radio voice. I think Steve is intelligent and very, very smart and knows what he's talking about. And I think when you have those elements together, it's just a recipe for success. And I think that if he puts a podcast together, it will be fantastic. So help me encourage Steve to go ahead and put a podcast together. And like I said, he's more than welcome to do it here. And I'm sure you guys would support him just the same way that I would. Because, ultimately it's about helping one another and, trying to just this journey, right? Like help each other with this journey, right? Why not? All right, guys. So listen, just a couple more things real quick. Patreon, please. I have one. The show's got one. If you guys go over there and check us out, the Bobby Kudo Show on Patreon. And, again, you could show your support for the show. Any donations, anything, any support would be greatly appreciated. And I tell you guys that, the website, is an expense. The podcast hosting is an expense, and all that little bit helps. And if it's going to help the show grow and expand and maybe we can try some new things, different things, maybe change the schedule up. I'm actually toying with the idea of maybe going 2 days a week with the podcast. Maybe we could do 2 episodes, maybe not just 1 2-hour, maybe not just 1 2-hour show and maybe do 2 1-hour shows. Tell me what you think about that too. So a couple of things for you guys to think about and to get back to me about. So don't hesitate. Write this stuff down. Think about what you think and then share that with me. And we can make this as beautiful as it is. You know what I mean? Like it can only, listen, as we continue to feed this beanstalk, it will continue to grow into the clouds, right? And we all know it's at the top of the beanstalk, the goose with the golden egg. And that's what we're all looking for, right? We all want the golden egg. So help me help you find the golden egg, right? So guys, that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope you would enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. The music was fantastic. Just a little something different, right? A little, you almost forget this music exists. I think episode 24, the music was absolutely phenomenal. I actually listened to it a couple of times and played it over and over again just because I loved the segment and I loved the music. This one here was a little more eccentric. I think we had a little more like kind of, the Dirty Diana with Michael Jackson and Kokomo with the Beach Boys. All I Want Is You with YouTube. Kind of a little, maybe not your top 40 songs, but except Dirty Diana because that was up there, but not so popular like just the kind of the gimmies that like obviously like the Guns N' Roses, but some good stuff nonetheless. And then of course the TV shows, and then of course the shows to watch. I hope you guys take my advice and do that because it is some great programming. And guys, and that's pretty much the show. I hope you will all show your support for the show on Etsy. Again, Etsy.com/shop/The Bobby Kudo Show. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Guys, I'd love to hear from you. I can't tell you enough. I don't get enough messages. I get a few, but I don't get enough. And I would love to just get more substance for the show. I want to really talk about the things that you want to talk about. So help me out, man. Shoot me some ideas. Let me know what you think. And I would love to talk about them. And if anybody, again, I throw the invitation out there. If there's anything you want to talk about, if you want to come on the show, if you guys want to call into the show, whatever you like. Let's do that. This podcast here, 25, I decided, I wanted to do just the podcast. I didn't want to bring in, the live cast with Facebook. Just kind of wanted to get back to the roots of the show, of what it really is. And that really is a podcast. I do enjoy doing the live cast on Facebook, but for all intents and purposes, I don't want to do it all the time. I think a once in a while is cool. And for me, the podcast is the most important recipe of all. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it finds you all healthy and happy. And I really appreciate you all lending me your ear. You all know, every single one of you know that I love you all, and I love you all equally. So I thank you again for your patience and your time, and really look forward to next week, right? I mean, and it's going to be a short week because when you're listening, guys, this is already Tuesday. So it's going to be a short week. And of course, with a short week, you get the podcast a little sooner. So right around the corner, episode 26, ring-a-ling-a-lingin', right? Right? Absolutely. Guys, so I just want to say thank you all. I appreciate every single one of you, gentlemen and ladies. And stay safe, stay humble, and remember, all roads lead here.